Apple AirTags. We're going to talk about today about how these can be the equivalent of being digitally roofied.
Actually, this little piece of metal is exactly what one of my clients found in her car, and having been stalked, threatened, and chased by an ex-boyfriend for months on end. So you're going to help us today understand what the heck this thing is,
Absolutely.
what it does,
Yes,
and hopefully how we can protect ourselves from it.
exactly. Well, this is a little thing, a little piece of plastic. It can be painted. It can be, obviously it looks white at the moment, but we can make this any color we want. It has a 2-year battery inside. And what it does is it uses the Apple network as a location beacon. And it's pretty small. It can be dropped in a pocket. It can be dropped in a handbag or a purse. And you, as a bad person, know where that person is all the time.
Well, how does that happen? For example, I read a little while ago about a person who went to a bar and then she went home and she found one of these had been placed in her handbag.
Yes.
So should she be concerned? What does this even do? You said this was made by Apple. What is this device doing besides just sitting in the handbag?
So it's pinging a location beacon. It's pinging a location every time that it sees an iPhone or an Apple device. It doesn't have to be hers, doesn't have to be yours. It can be anyone's. And obviously there's 20 million of those iPhones on the planet. So therefore it can be tracked quite easily. And you don't get real-time tracking, but you get almost near real-time.
So if a bad person, you buy one of these, correct?
Yep, about $25.
About $25. So you buy one of these for $25, and then is it all ready to go right away? Do I have to do something with it? What do I need to do to make this thing work?
Well, you peel the wrapper off, and it goes beep, and you attach it to your phone or your iPad, and you attach it to your iCloud account. But once you've done that, and you can even name it. You could, if you're a bad person and you want to, name it, attractive blonde in bar on day 3, then you can name it attractive blonde in bar on day 3, and therefore, even if you don't know her, the person's name.
So when you say attach it, you don't mean to physically attach it to the phone. You mean to register it to an
Yes,
Apple account?
Exactly, yes.
So I get an Apple account.
Yep.
And I buy one of these.
Yes.
And I register it to the Apple account.
Yes.
And then I go out in the world with this thing.
Yes.
And I put it someplace.
Yes.
In somebody's pocket or
car,
same.
or yes, or you could put it behind the gas cap of a car.
And then what do I do? So now the car drives away with somebody in it. This is in the car. What do I do? You say it's the beacon. Do I hear it? Do I go home and wait for it to do something? What happens?
So you get your phone or your iPad that you have registered with that device, and you open the maps icon, and you start to see where the person is going.
Oh, wow. So almost in real time, as the car or the person's moving, the little dot on the map starts moving too?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So in your case with your client,
Yep.
the bad actor knew where she lived, knew where she worked, because obviously there was a pattern over a period of days of in the evening, it was always at this location. During the weekday work hours, it was always at this location. And by pattern matching, you then start to build up a component of the person's life and where they live, and you can then use that to attack their privacy even more of knowing where they live and work.
And all during the time that's happening, does this thing turn off after a couple of months or a week, or does it continue to work for a long time till the battery dies?
It lasts for about 2 years.
So in the worst case scenario, during a 2-year period of time, and in my client's let's say my client was being harassed for like 6 or 7 months.
Yes.
During that whole period of time, constantly this thing is sending to somebody's Apple account information.
Yes.
Is it just location information?
Yes, it is. Yes. But obviously from that you can then start, inferring where their favorite coffee shop is, where their children go to school. It's the inference of data that it gives you.
So knowing the location of this device, in this case it was, let's say, in the client's handbag or in a client's car, constant communication, that person, that client, that woman in this case, is living in an environment, this digital environment, in which this device is impacting her life all the time, and she didn't even know it. All she knew is that people were sending her messages or phone calls, or maybe even calling her. What are you doing in such and such a restaurant? I didn't think you liked it there. They're getting that kind of information from this device, correct?
Correct, yes.
And then they're using that to make somebody else's life a living heck.
Yes.
To be perfectly honest.
And it also has locationing as well as locationing to a point on the planet, but it also has locationing within a short range. So the bad person can say, I see you're in aisle 3 of the supermarket right now.
Wow, well that is frightening.
Yes.
And that's really frightening. And that causes a lot of people, just because of this little device and an evil intent and $25, that can cause a lot of people's lives to be horribly upset. But for the time being, let's think though too that this serves a great function as well, right?
Yes. I mean, if you have an expensive package and you're sending it for the price of $25, drop that in the package and you know when it's arrived. Not sure, not sure where your car is because you parked it in a hurry.
That's me.
Yes. You can find your own car, find your own keys, find your own umbrella.
Sending your kids to school, drop it in the knapsack or maybe even in their pocket. And if they don't come home on time or they miss the school bus or anything else, a little peace of mind of knowing they're still at the school, or we can go find out where they're at. There's all kinds of great functions that these things serve as well. So let me ask you, how do you detect if you've got one? Is there any way in which this device can sometimes give away its presence?
Well, yes. If you have an iPhone yourself, it will announce that one of these tags is moving with you. But if you don't have an iPhone, then you do actually have problems.
All right, so if any of our listeners to this podcast has an iPhone, and if they're moving in their car, let's say they're driving their car, they got an iPhone, and in the car is an air tag that it's not theirs, they didn't register it to themselves, you're saying that the iPhone will basically give you some kind of alert or notification?
Yes, it will. But people can get very fatigued by that because if they use public transport and they're on a train, on a bus, every day they're going to get information saying there's an iTag moving with you, and most people are just going to go, oh yeah, that's nothing.
Okay, so the idea is that this tag, like it could be in somebody's pocketbook, and they're on the bus, and your phone says, good grief, I'm moving through space, and this air tag that doesn't belong to me is also moving through space. Warning, warning.
Yes.
And after a while, people go, give me a break. All you're doing is telling me that somewhere
in this carriage. Yeah,
there's one of these tags.
Yes.
All right. And about how far away does this have to be to an iPhone to give you that kind of warning at all?
They say about 100 yards.
About 100 yards, wow.
Yeah.
So you're right. So you could have a whole lot of warnings.
Yes.
So here we've got a kind of a great example, again, of being in a digital life with a device that you don't even own.
Right.
You're living your life. This device and somebody else impacts your life and begins to do things that not only are frightening, but in many cases may be against the law. That's where this concept of trying to respond to a digital life, both technically and legally, you got to kind of know, well, what the heck am I supposed to do about this? Is there any way, if I find this device, if I look real hard, is there any way to track it down if it were hidden in my car or in a pocketbook or something like that?
It's difficult. You can, it will make a beep every now and again, an audio, but that can be disabled. So if you constantly get an alert, or if you happen to have an iPhone or a friend happens to have an iPhone, and they are getting alerts saying there's a tag moving with you, then it's worth giving a cursory examination of your items, your property that you happen to have, and see if you find one. But just because that one is white in color doesn't mean that others will be.
Right. And if you do find one, is there any way to at least start the process of trying to figure out who the heck owns this?
Yes, there's a little cover, little metal disc. If you remove the little metal disc and look inside, it's very small writing, but there is a serial number.
So you mentioned, Hayden, that we find one, we open it up, we can get a serial number.
Yeah.
Is there something we can do with that serial number to kind of move some investigation forward or protect ourselves in some fashion?
Yes, you can. The first advice would be to contact us as you're an attorney, and we can start looking at digital countermeasures that we can put in place to protect you and to get your life back and have it more private again.
So part of the reason that this device is so interesting to me is that if you find one like this, or somebody has decided that they're going to invade your privacy in order to try to cause you a problem or whatnot, this leaves behind some fingerprints, the serial number being one of them, and we can maybe do some other things. But it's also an example of how you've done nothing wrong yourself, how you have to be managing your privacy in your digital life because other people are showing up and doing things many times you don't even know about.
Yeah.
A lot of that can be against federal law. Some of it can be against state law. There's a whole legal component here. There's a whole area called forensics.
Yes.
That if you want to track down bad guys and do something about it, whether to get the police involved or law enforcement or sue them civilly, that's a whole area of specialization that both Hayden and I also do, separate from the concept of keeping you safe and private. One is adversarial and confrontational, go out and find the bad guys and let's knock them down. This podcast and the other ones within the Smarter Privacy solution are podcasts and knowledge trying to help you just live your life a little better. So in that regard, there are some things you can do. Calling us would be one of them.
And a smart one.
And a smart one. And there are other podcasts. If you arrange for your notifications to be turned on, you'll see other podcasts that we're going to be doing along the same lines, trying to again identify devices and social media issues that you need to manage more smartly in order to have smarter privacy, a better life,
and a more private life.